Bueno, sí.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Camina.
Conference. It's wonderful to be here with all of you. My name is Joaquin Castro, and I represent the very beautiful city of San Antonio, Texas, in the United States House of Representatives. And I, amidst all of the very important, very weighty issues that we've been talking about, I want us to take a moment to honor our community and to do it in a spirit of gratitude, a spirit of remembrance, and also in a spirit of hope because of everything that we've heard today and what is possible. I want to start with the gratitude. I want you to think in your own life for a moment about all of the incredible people, your ancestors, your grandparents, your great-grandparents, your mother and your father, all of your family members who have given you so much in your life, particularly people that came before us, and how much they sacrificed to get us, each of us, where we are today. And all of the opportunities, all of the challenges that we face as a community today, we have spoken about the challenges that they faced years ago. These were, some of them, like my grandmother, young children who came to this country and didn't speak a word of English. My grandmother entered a state of Texas where there were still signs that said, no dogs or Mexicans allowed, where Spanish was still illegal to be spoken in Texas schools. There's so many similar stories like that of our parents and our grandparents who faced these very difficult challenges in American society and didn't give up, but persevered, resisted, and ultimately, I believe, prevailed. And so we say to them, thank you, gracias. Thank you for everything that they have given us. And we acknowledge that as part of this conference. We also remember the lives that we have lost along the way, particularly in the last few years. I read a statistic today that made me stop in my tracks. It said that the life expectancy had dropped a few years during the pandemic for Latinos in the United States, because in many places in our country, Latino communities were the most affected. We were almost 2 times as likely to die from COVID-19 as the majority community. I know each of us, or it's likely that each of us in our own lives, knows somebody who passed away, who died because of COVID. Family member, a friend, neighbor. My stepmom, who was married to my dad for 31 years, died in July of 2020. She had been a cafeteria worker, and she could never get the vaccine. It wasn't out yet. And so we remember those who died because of what was a once-in-a-century pandemic and killed so many people, not only in this country and in Latin America, but around the world. We also remember the people, it was mentioned earlier, in our community in this new media age that we live in, who were victims of disinformation, who resisted getting a vaccination because they were given bad information, because they were preyed upon by some people. So we remember them. We remember the immigrants over the years who have tried to come to this country and who have died in that attempt, certainly who have suffered. We often say that this is a nation of immigrants, and it is a nation of immigrants. But too often, immigrants, particularly brown-skinned immigrants, have been vilified and criminalized just because they're fleeing oppression, destitution, and danger. Many of them still die in the desert. They die in detention centers. Let us remember them and honor them. And let us also remember today those in our community who have suffered because of gun violence. Not a natural-made thing, but a man-made thing. The kids who cowered in that classroom, scared and terrified in Uvalde, Texas, in my hometown, or my home state of Texas. the many folks, most of them Latino, who went shopping at a Walmart in El Paso, Texas, and who lost their lives. And the mostly Latino LGBTQ community in Orlando, Florida, who were shot and killed at the Pulse nightclub. Our community has paid a real price because of gun violence and the unwillingness of our political leaders to do something about it. So we remember them also today. And in all of these stories, in the tragedies and the suffering, but also in the triumphs, let us also find hope in going forward. Because as folks have said today, we aren't without power. We aren't without agency. We have come together to change things, to make a difference. And we make that difference in their memory because they mattered. Because their stories, most of them were never written. Their stories were never told. Many of them over the years, as far as America was concerned, were faceless people. I was reminded of that not too long ago when one of the fathers of one of the victims in Uvalde asked the governor of Texas if he could name any of the children who were victims in that classroom. And he said, I can't off the top of my head. Let us remember them. What they meant to their families and their communities, but what they mean to this country, what they mean to all of us. And I take hope from all of the work that you all are doing and all of the change that you're accomplishing and all of the great things that are happening in our community. Let us not forget that Latinas are still the fastest growing entrepreneurs and small business owners in the country. And also, if you look around the country, not just in places like Texas and California and New York and Florida and Illinois, the states that we often think of as having large Latino populations, it's not just that Latinos are growing there. It's not just that we're almost one-fifth of the country. It's also that if you go to places like South Carolina and Nebraska and just Wyoming or Montana, oftentimes you find that Latino communities are electing their first Latina to the school board or their first Latina to the city council or to the legislature. All of these things give us hope, and all of these things should give us inspiration. And I want to say thank you to each of you for all of your incredible work and everything that you're doing. I fundamentally believe right now, unfortunately, that Americans, for the most part, do not know who Latinos are, because our stories and our histories have not been told in American history textbooks and state history textbooks. And being unknown is not just culturally inconvenient, it's also dangerous. And so that is the imperative that we have to change that. And so with that, I want to invite each of you to join Monica Ramirez and I as we lead a procession to remember the lives that we have lost during this time. And we're going to, when you exit the auditorium, please take a marigold from a staff member at the exits. When we arrive at the bridge, we'll set them adrift in honor of the lives that we've lost. Thank you.